Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Kraken Packs video. I am your host, MrBevers. That's right, we're back again with 3 more packs of Innistrad, the original Innistrad. We're doing a bit of an art appreciation series where we just kind of like take a slower look at the packs. We're not in this to crack open crazy value or anything like that. We're in this to just show off the cards and help everybody enjoy them. And maybe reminisce a bit about playing in the limited format of this set and all that kind of stuff. So get ready, everybody. We're getting into it. This is brought to you, of course, by my wonderful patron, Brad. He sent this box to me, allowing me to open it so that we all could enjoy it together. All of the cards that you see opened from this series are going back into a box that is going back to Brad at the end of this series. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you very, very much, Brad. Let's get right into it. All right, what do we got here? We got some cobbled wings. Look at those cobbled wings. Made out of paper and whatever other garbage was laying about. Glorious. This was a key card in Limited due to the fact that you could basically, 2 mana to get an equipment in play, and then only equip cost is only 1 and allows you to essentially put it into, make any creature into a flyer, which was very good. Woodland Sleuth. This card was very good in Limited as well. So it's a 2/3 for 4, but it says Morbid. When Woodland Sleuth enters the battlefield, if a creature died this turn, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Very good card, especially if you had like a bomb that got removed and it was the only thing that had died. This allows you to essentially get it back, which is great. And yes, it's at random, but what can you do, right? This is gorgeous art, by the way. Curse of Oblivion, 4 mana, enchant player at the beginning of enchanted players. Upkeep, that player exiles 2 cards from his or her graveyard. Look at the art on this card. It's just gorgeous. It's like this weird meld between like an ocean wave and this woman's hair. Very cool looking. Very, very cool looking. I don't know if you can get the full effect out of it, but I'm trying to make sure that there's not really a lot of glare or anything, but just gorgeous. Just gorgeous art on that card. Here we've got the Crossway Vampire. A little 3/2 for 3 that says, when Crossway Vampire enters the battlefield, target creature can't block this turn. Basically just prevents something from blocking. Nice little hasty, or not hasty, but a nice little aggro card there. Art, of course, looking pretty gorgeous as well. That background there, you can see like there's like a keep on the hill over here. Very nice. And just kind of busting people up on the road, being like, hey, you're not going to participate in this fight. Here's our Corpse Lunge again. We've talked about this in the previous videos. We will see a lot of duplicates here, so the art that we're going to focus on for some of these commons and stuff, we may pass by a few that you've seen multiple times in the series of the video. But Corpse Lunge, a 3 mana instant that says as additional cost to cast Corpse Lunge, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Corpse Lunge deals damage equal to the exiled creature's power to target creature. This just lets you like toss your graveyard at somebody, and as you can see, dude was not really expecting for a corpse to be thrown at him. Ancient Grudge, good times, another good one. Solid little instant for 2 mana, 1 and a red. Destroy target artifact, flashback for 1 green. As you can see, this werewolf has had enough of Avacyn's nonsense, right? Just had enough of Avacyn's nonsense. Ooh, Ghoul Raiser. This is probably one of my favorite arts for like the Gravedigger type card. Again, this is also not Gravedigger because it's 1 and double black as opposed to 3 and 1 black, but it's basically the same sort of card. It's a 2/2, and then when it enters battlefield, return a zombie card at random from your graveyard to your hand. So it's not really as good as Gravedigger since Gravedigger gets back everything, but Gravedigger does cost 1 more, but 1 less black. So it costs 1 more total, but it costs 1 more of a certain type of mana, but this is a nice 3-drop to be able to get a zombie back from your graveyard, which was happening quite a lot. Right now it is at random as well, so you never know what you're going to get back, especially if you've dumped a bunch of things into the yard, which chances are in this set you have. We've got the Abbey Griffin here, of course. I still haven't figured out where this chapel is from. It's definitely from one of the lands from the set, but I don't remember which one. It's probably the what is that? The Wolfbriar, I want to say. It's what it sort of looks like. But anyway, it's a 2/2 flyer for 4 with Vigilance. Not a bad little card. I feel like they focused a lot more on the background detail than they did on the Griffin itself, but that's okay. We're on to our first uncommon here. We've got Sharpened Pitchfork. You don't want to be on the business end of that thing right there. Look at how sharp that looks. Considering it's probably actually used in the field every day, keeping it sharp would be very important. You know, especially if you live in a world like Innistrad. Now, normal Pitchfork, it doesn't need to necessarily be sharp, just pointy. It needs to be able to pick things up, right? That's all. So, equipped creature has first strike. As long as the equipped creature is a human, it gets +1/+1. Ooh, Moan of the Unhallowed. Moan of the Unhallowed is a really cool card, too. 4 mana, make 2 2/2s. So, for 4 mana, you get 4 power and 4 toughness. Pretty good. But not only that, it has a flashback. So, later in the game, you can make 2 more 2/2s. And the thing about the 2/2s in this is that even though they're only 2/2s, it's very, good even as a 2/2, just because there wasn't a lot of stuff in this set that was like huge beefy things. So it was more about having a lot, going wide essentially, having a lot of smaller things. There were a few big things, don't get me wrong, right? But a lot of stuff, like, I mean, you can see here, this is a 5 mana 3/3 flyer, right? So again, only 3/3. Not much bigger than a 2/2. Right? Yeah, it's flying as well, but it also costs an extra mana, right? And not only that, with the 2 2/2s, you get 4 power and 4 toughness for 4 mana, and this is 3 of both for 5 mana. Now, it also gives each other spirit you control +1/+0, which makes your other spirits more powerful, which is nice. Very good for, like, the token decks, for sure. Blue-white flyers. Oh, look at that. We hit a Sulphur Falls. Nice. So there you go. That's one of the... This is what they call a buddy land, I believe, is what they called them. So it's like an enters battlefield tapped unless you control an island or a mountain. So basically you have to have one of those two to allow this to come into play untapped. Generally speaking, easy to do. So these were auto-includes in pretty much every standard deck that was in rotation at the time. Just because they were so... Like, they make 2 colors, and they most likely come into play untapped. They work great with shocklands, because shocklands are technically islands or mountains, right? That kind of thing. So they do count. It doesn't say basic land. It doesn't say unless you control a basic island or mountain, right? It just says an island or a mountain. So even the shocklands count. So any land that has those keywords on it counts for these, which is really nice. Then you've got your sweet zombie token. Then you've got your checklist card. And then you've got your flip card. And the flip card is Grizzled Outcasts, which is a 4/4. Beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were played, it flips into a 7/7. So it looks like we have a foil here. Yeah, okay. So it's just a 7/7. So it's a 4/4 that turns into a 7/7. Again, not bad, because 4/4 was actually pretty big in this format. And a 7/7 was extremely large in this format. So there you have it. And of course, the art looks really cool. You've got, kind of like the 2 figures, 4 in the foreground and then 2 in the background, kind of like, looks like they're sneaking up or spying on them or something like that. Put that guy on the bottom like so. And then a foil. Oh, a foil uncommon. Hallowhenge Scavenger. See, now this is a 4/5, so this was very good, because for 5 mana, you get something with 5 toughness. It's very hard to remove. When Hallowhenge Scavenger enters battlefield, if a creature died this turn, you gain 5 life. So, I mean, like, its morbid thing isn't even that important. It's just a 4/5 body for 5, which is pretty good in this format. But, I mean, like, look at that sweet art. Like, look at those claws on that thing. You definitely don't want to meet this out in the wilderness. That is for sure. That is for sure. Let's move on to the next pack here. Ooh. We got that wooden stake. Good old birch bark. Who doesn't like a birch bark steak, right? It's great. And no, I don't mean a steak that is smoked with birch bark. That would probably not be terrible, but at the same time, it doesn't have the same sort of flavor as, some of those other woods that you can use to smoke meats. But anyway, you got, you know, just like a makeshift stake here, right? Gives +1/+0. And it says whenever a creature blocks or becomes blocked by a vampire, destroy that creature. It can't be regenerated. Very good for this format because, you know, there were lots of vampires, zombies, and werewolves. Right? But I guess this one's only for vampires. But there were lots of vampires in the set as well. Ghoul Caller's Chant. We saw this one a few times here. Nice little card. Return target creature card from your graveyard or return 2 target zombies. Very good for 1 mana. Especially, even though it's sorcery speed, it's just really, really good for any kind of zombie deck at all. Doom Traveler. Great. I love this card. This card was great in this format. A little 1/1 for 1. But when it died, it replaced itself with a 1/1 flyer, so like it got essentially worse. It made your opponents not want to essentially block this and or let you block with it because they didn't want you to get those 1/1 flyers because then they couldn't deal with them, right? So this card was great. The art on this is really cool too. You can see, like, as you can see there, the Doom Traveler walking with their spear there, or their halberd, or whatever you want to call it, and but the shadow is that with its arms out like a spirit. So very cool. Very, very cool. We've got Lost in the Mist. And Lost in the Mist is a counter spell for 5 mana that says counter target spell, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So interesting. So you get to counter something and then bounce something. So it's kind of interesting in the aspect of, like, you wait for them to, like, tap out to play, like, you know, a 4-drop or a 5-drop, and you counter it and put their other 4 or 5-drop back into their hand, so that now they have to recast it, but they can't cast it this turn because they just wasted their mana. Very interesting counterspell. Quite expensive, though, so it's really only meant for late game, but that's actually sort of where you want this card to fall anyway, because of the return clause, right? You want to be able to 2-for-1 them with this card, which basically you can, which is very cool. And the art on it is very interesting too, right? It's like somebody sort of like in a lake with what appears to be like their spirit kind of flowing out of them, or maybe it's the mist attacking them, who knows. But very cool art on that one as well. Traveler's Amulet. Now this is something that we've seen reprinted a few times. This art is really cool. I really like the art on this one. Most of the new Traveler's Amulets are very sort of like heavily focused on the amulet itself and not really on the art in the background. I like the fact that this one is sort of like still highlights the amulet, but also gives you a little bit of like taste of the world it came from, or the world that it's in. And that is, like, you can see the nice gothic castle in the background, but you can also see, like, there's like a fence here, an iron rent fence that seems to be all kind of like bent and warped and wrecked. And then of course it's laying on a tree that has been chopped down, which is interesting, right? Because, like, obviously this is a time of war and or, you know, chaos, which is kind of cool. So there you go. We got Corpse Lunge again. We saw this in the last pack, so I'm just gonna kind of blow past it here. Ooh, Geist Flame. Geist Flame's a great little card too. Little 1 mana, deals 1 damage, but then it flashbacks for 4. Very cool. This was big in this format because there were a lot of X ones, especially the spirits. So it did a lot of work. Stormkirk Patrol, I should say. Little 4/3 for 5. So again, you can see only 3 toughness for a 5-drop, right? And it says whenever Stormkirk Patrol deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. And that was the biggest thing with this set, was that most of the cards that got big and got scary was because they dealt damage to you and therefore got bigger. And it was mostly vampires that did that. There was also, like, the Lumberknot, I think, was from this set. And the Lumberknot was like, whenever a creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on it, and it has hexproof in it. But it starts as a 2/2 for 4, but, like, if things are just constantly dying, it gets big real fast, and you have no removal for it except for a board wipe or a way to, like, get your opponent to sacrifice it, essentially. Pitchburn Devils was a great card from this format as well. So it's a 3/3 for 5, which, again, that's about average, right? I mean, you've seen like X3s, you've had a couple that are like X4s or X5s, but not a lot. So a 3/3 is not bad for 5 mana in this format, but not only that, it's when it dies, it deals 3 damage. So really, this can block something that has 6 toughness and kill it, or it can, like, trade with something and then hit the opponent in the face for 3, which is very nice. We've got a Falconwrath Noble. This card is great as well. A little 2/2 flyer for 4. Whenever Falconwrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain a life. So you get to pick somebody and basically drain them, which is very nice. The art on this really cool. You can see it's just like a vampire sort of like floating in front of a clock. But as we mentioned before, if you notice, like the top of this clock is like covered in other people like standing around. If those aren't like statues and stuff, that's like actual people. And you can see like there's like a dragon in the background there. Like that's probably a statue, but who knows? It could actually be a dragon. Curiosity. Curiosity is another really good card as well. 1 mana enchantment. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Right? So it's basically just a similar thing to Curious Obsession, right? Which was good as well. Still sees play. That card's a little bit better just because it gives you a little bit more bonus as well. Whereas this is just drawing a card if you hit an opponent. But still not bad, especially for something that has evasion or hexproof or whatever. Oh, there we go. I talked about this card just the other day because there was a card that came up from, I think it was Oath of the Gatewatch. And it's essentially this same well, right? And you can see this is like a girl holding a teddy bear, right? Throwing a coin down this well, making a wish. And then the card from, like, I think it's Oath of the Gatewatch. It's a card that essentially is an Eldrazi reaching down into the well and pulling a bear out. And so the idea, I think, behind that is that it's this girl has been converted or like essentially exposed to the Eldrazi sort of like, creatures and has mutated, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, into an Eldrazi or been infected or converted or who knows whatever, right? And is reaching into the well to pull out their bear because they have a memory of it still, which is kind of interesting. So anyway, this is a return 2 cards at random from your graveyard to your hand. If you only have 2 cards in your graveyard, great little card. You get back exactly what you want. If you have more than that, maybe not as good. And then our rare is a Runechanter's Pike, which is a fun one. So this is equipped creature has first strike and gets +X/+0, where X is the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So this card can be very good in like an Izzet jumpstart type deck or whatever, right? Jumpstart's maybe not the best option just because you exile your cards out of your graveyard to play them, but like it can be very good with the Izzet game plan, which is basically like play a bunch of spells, draw a bunch of cards, make something big or cycle stuff, or very cool little rare. And then of course you got your add card, good old add card, your checklist card, and then your flip card is a Screeching Bat. And Screeching Bat is a 2/2 for 3 that says it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 and a black. If you do, transform Screeching Bat. And Screeching Bat, as you can see, a nice moon in the background there, just kind of flapping around, turns into the Stalking Vampire, which is the exact same aesthetic. The 2 trees there, or the 2 pillars, or whatever they are they pillars? They look like kind of like pillars. With the moon in the background, and now instead of a bat, it is this lovely lady vampire here. And it's a 5/5 without flying, so it's just a 5/5. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 4, and if you do, transform it. So you can turn it back into a 2/2 flyer if, for whatever reason, they gum up the board and don't want you to be able to swing in with your 5/5. You can go ahead and just change it back into a 2/2 flyer, and away you go. All right. Ooh, Curse of the Bloody Tome. Good one. This is a good mill card. So enchanted player, at the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Sweet. Just a nice little mill card. Only costs 3 mana to enchant them. Look at the art, though. That is some bloody books right there. There's been an accident in this library, and some librarian is going to be very, very ticked off. That's all I have to say. We got another Cobbled Wings here. We saw this in the first pack. Ooh, we got the Fortress Crab. Good old 1/6 for 4, right? Unbreakable and unappetizing, the crab grows uninterrupted, sometimes to the size of a cottage and beyond. Could you imagine a crab the size of a cottage? I can't, and I don't want to. That sounds scary. That sounds like it's not a lot of fun. Orchard Spirit. This is an interesting one because it's like a pseudo flyer without flying. So it's a 3-mana 2/2 that says Orchard Spirit can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. So essentially it has flying, but it doesn't have flying. It can only be blocked by creatures that have flying or reach. But it itself doesn't have flying, which is interesting. Very interesting. Ranger's Guile. Ranger's Guile's a good one. Target creature gains +1/+1 and gains hexproof. Gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn for 1 mana instant. So stops your creature from being blown up, but not only that, it gives you a little boost so that you can block something if you want or whatever, right? Very nice. And as you can see there, the Ranger has basically like a bark skin sort of like enchantment on them, which is kind of cool. So it turns them into like what looks like a tree, but they're not really a tree. And then of course we see down here it's just got like pelts on her belt, which is kind of weird but also interesting. Oh, we got the Abbey Griffin again, so another one that we've already seen this week, so we won't take too much time to talk about this one. Ooh, Sensory Deprivation. Nice. Little 1-mana enchantment. It says enchant creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn. And just look at that. We've stitched the eyes closed and the mouth. We left the nose alone though. You can still smell. You're allowed to smell. You just can't talk very well or see very well, okay? And they didn't even like close them. They're not quite closed, you know what I mean? Like the mouth is still open, the eyes are still open a bit. So that's what like sensory deprivation, it's not quite like you're not completely blind and you're not completely unable to eat or talk. It's just a little more difficult for you. That's all. But your smells good. We don't touch anyone's nose, right? We don't give nose jobs out for free. That's the difference, right? Mouth, lip job, eyes job, sure, we got you covered, but only if you want it to be stitched. Infernal Plunge is next. 1-mana sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Infernal Plunge, sacrifice a creature. Add 3 red to your mana pool. So you just like toss a dude off a cliff. Go, my friend, sacrifice yourself for the greater good. And by the greater good, I mean adding 3 mana to my mana pool. Midnight Haunting. Put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield for 3 mana. Instant speed, though. Instant speed is key here because this allows you to essentially flash in 2 1/1 flyers, which can very, very well win you the game sometimes on appropriate turns. So, not too shabby. We got a Geist Catcher's Rig here. This looks really cool, too, the art on this. So this is a 4/5 for 6 that says when it enters battlefield, you may have it deal 4 damage to target creature with flying. So if you look at the art on this, it is very cool looking. Like there's like something down here that looks like it's having its soul sucked out of it or something. I don't know what the deal is, but like it's got like these, it's almost like a traveling ectoplasm reactor type thing, like where, you know, like you just pump the ghosts into it to hold on to them, but it like glows because of course ghosts have this kind of weird glowy aura to them. That's really cool looking. Ooh, we got a Rage Thrower. Rage Thrower was one of my favorite cards from this format way back, and this is because it's a 6-mana 4/2, which is not really, you know, like it doesn't have a lot of toughness, and 4/2 for 6 is pretty rough. However, its ability says whenever another creature dies, it does 2 damage to target player. So essentially, if you have a whole bunch of little rinky-dink 1/1s or whatever, you can sack them and then just do a whole pile of damage to your opponent's face, which is crazy. Anyway, so there's the Rage Thrower. You can see, looks like a flamethrower basically. I guess rage and fire go hand in hand. That's what they're trying to tell us here, right? Oh, look, we got a Lab Maniac. That's funny. So Laboratory Maniac, as most of you probably know, was reprinted as an uncommon in Ultimate Masters. So this card is no longer a rare, basically, but it is a rare from this format. This was an interesting one because it's like if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So, of course, there were a lot of decks out there in like the blue-black sort of archetype that would like essentially self-mill so that you could then win with this card, which was really cool. And then, of course, as most of you know, a lot of people have found ways to break this card very, very well in Commander and other formats like that. So, very cool. Nice to see the original printing of this card. And, of course, the art didn't change for the reprint, so there's the art. It's the nice dude in the lab, looking like he's going insane. We've got, of course, just a garbage ad token there. We got the checklist card. And it looks like we have a foil here. So we do have a foil. So we've got Ulvenwald Mystics. Okay. So we can, like, put that down like that. There we go. So the Ulvenwald Mystics are a 3/3/4/4. So again, you can see here, only a 3/3, but it does flip into a 5/5. However, the best part about this is that it pay a green and you get to regenerate it. So it's a 5/5 with regenerate for 4 mana, which is pretty good. It's not actually that shabby. Now, what foil did we get? Foil rare, Heretic Punishment. Heretic's Punishment. Look at that one. That is some crazy art on that card. Is that like leeches? Is those like leeches on his butt? Like, what is that weird mark on the arm there? I can't even tell. What is it? What does it look like in the camera? I can't tell if it's like leeches or if it's like a spike that's driven into him to hold him down. It's kind of weird. Like there's, you can see there's like a weird, there's like a ring that's been like kind of like driven into him. I don't know. Weird. Anyway, so 5 mana enchantment in red that says pay 4, choose target creature or player, then put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Heretic's Punishment deals damage to that creature or player equal to the highest converted mana cost among those cards. So here's another self-mill card, right, that lets you dump stuff into your graveyard. Very good for flashback decks. So like if you have a lot of flashback things or things to recur stuff out of your graveyard, this card is great for that because you can pick a target, mill yourself 3, deal a bunch of damage, and then still get value off the cards you milled. So very interesting. Now 5 mana enchantment, a little pricey, especially since its ability costs 4 mana to do it. But I mean, it can remove a bunch of things, especially if you have stuff that's high cost. So there you go. Not too shabby. We got 4 rares this week, 2 foils, one of them being a foil rare. Not too shabby. The art was phenomenal. I hope you all enjoyed this little walk through Innistrad with me. We got a nice original printing of Laboratory Maniac and a Sulphur Falls, so can't complain there. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Brad, again. I really appreciate you allowing me to open this product up for you and share it with everybody else. You are a superstar. I appreciate it. Have yourselves a wonderful day. And as always, may your pulls ever be better.